Welcome back, viewers, to Dug Up, and today we have another interesting episode. We have been digging and we stumbled upon a bombshell, stumbled upon something that is mind-blowing, and we're going to be discussing about it today. And with me to discuss that, we have Maynard Manyoa, as usual. Welcome, Maynard.
Hey, Panache.
Do you want to tell us what we came from?
Wow, so this is probably one of the most surprising, if not outright mind-blowing investigations that we've done. Although I'll say from the start that a lot of the credit really for this one has to go to Prof. Changamire, because he has done a lot of the legwork for this, for this particular episode. We're obviously doing this episode slightly differently than in the past, where we usually write the story on our Substack and then a video comes a day later. But we thought we'll change things up a bit, and since the weekend, we'll do the video first, and the write-up will come on Monday. With regards to this, essentially, we have one of the best performing cabinet ministers from the time that Robert Mugabe was in government, a person who still attracts a lot of respect in the community. There's not a lot of former ministers from Zimbabwe who people have that much respect for, and I think this particular individual is one of the few individuals that, when we started the fake doctorate files, when his name popped up, he's the one that I probably said, let's put this on the back burner. This PhD is real. There's no way it's fake. He's smart. You listen to other people we've exposed so far, you can tell that something's not correct here. Things don't add up. This is not how somebody who even went to school speaks like. But this is different. This is a very sophisticated individual, very smart. But unfortunately, there are several question marks that have been, raised by Prof. Changamire in the investigation. And I mean, I'll go straight up and name him. The person is Walter Mzembi, who was celebrated for being the former Minister of Tourism. I just can't quite remember if at some point he became Foreign Affairs Minister just before the coup or something. But people remember him largely as Minister of Tourism, and for his work, in taking brand Zimbabwe out there. And his PhD is, unfortunately, by pretty much all accounts, it's bogus.
Yeah. Mzembi, what really led you to this investigation? And I know Prof. Changamire found out a lot of discrepancies. What really made you to go after him?
Well, not go after him per se, but his name popped up along the way when we were investigating, fake PhDs, which I think we've said it from when we finished with Magaya, that this extends a lot more and it involves quite a lot more people in very senior positions in government. And Walter Mzembi's name popped up. Like I said, he was one of the people that came up pretty fast. But our first reaction was, there's no way. Walter Mzembi, I mean, it has to be real. It can't be. But we do a bit of digging and we come up and we hit this brick wall and it looks like it's fake. And obviously, Changamire takes over in terms of the investigation. And one of the first things that he finds is that Walter Mzembi graduated from Aldersgate University College. And we confirm this because Walter Mzembi also gives us his synopsis of the PhD, which also carries a logo of Aldersgate University College. Now, I will say it flat out, that school doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. That university doesn't exist, so Walter Mzembi graduated from an institution that doesn't exist. Oh. So, in the Philippines, there's something called Aldersgate College. Aldersgate College is registered. It is accredited. But what Jacob Changamire finds is that Aldersgate University College doesn't exist. Okay. Aldersgate College does. Now, I know you might be asking, well, maybe it's just he's written the name wrong. However, Aldersgate College, the one that exists, can only give a bachelor's or a master's. They do not have PhD programs at Aldersgate College, at least according to the government of Philippines and the Philippines Department of Education. So Walter Mzembi, right from the start, has graduated with a PhD that doesn't exist. I mean, I've got the report with me, and in section 2, Changamire, for instance, he says the Commission on Higher Education, CHED, they've got no record whatsoever of an institution called Aldersgate University College. And, Changamire goes on to say, presenting an institution under a non-existent name raises immediate doubts about the veracity of the doctoral qualification. This is the equivalent of me saying I graduated from Midlands Government University. It doesn't exist. Midlands State University exists. So such an error in the name at PhD level, it immediately raises doubt. Or if I say I graduated from the Zimbabwe State University, that doesn't exist either. There's the University of Zimbabwe. And then when you take it deeper, you then realize that the course I'm saying I graduated with from that supposed Zimbabwe State University also doesn't exist. It's not offered by the University of Zimbabwe. So that's pretty much, the crux of what is the backbone at the first with regards to either he graduated from Aldersgate University College, which doesn't exist, or he's graduated from Aldersgate College that does not do PhD programs.
So what does this mean?
It basically means he graduated from an institution that doesn't exist. And then, you then take it further. Changamire finds, right, for instance, that he graduates, but the ceremony is held at UNISA. And this is something that we confirm with another person who we'll talk about slightly later, who pops up in Walter's research. But flatly, what this means is he graduated from a school that doesn't exist at all, because Aldersgate College doesn't give out PhDs. Aldersgate University College does not exist.
And we know Mzembi. I wanted to say Mzembi.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, there's all of them. They are implicated in these fake PhDs.
Yeah.
But Mzembi graduates from UNISA, but he attended a university in Philippines.
Yeah. I would actually say he doesn't graduate from UNISA, he graduates at UNISA. We've now established that there's this common habit where people graduate within the premises of UNISA. But different to Walter's case, in Walter Magaya's case, Jesus, what's wrong with Walters and PhDs? In Walter Magaya's case, he pretends to have graduated at UNISA, also from UNISA, or awarded an award from UNISA. Walter Mzembi graduated the premises of UNISA. But again, that is something that then also immediately raises questions. The said university is in the Philippines, right? But it's hosting its graduation ceremony at another university in another country. This is the equivalent of me going to Queen Elizabeth Girls High, but I then graduate from GCPT Girls School. Or you go to Lupane State University, but then you graduate from Great Zimbabwe University. It's pretty odd, or the equivalent of you do your degree at the UZ, but then you go and graduate at the University of Cape Town. It's very weird, it's very odd, but that is what happens. But to then take it further, right? There's also a mismatch of graduation cycles. Like I said, I've got Changamire's report in front of me here. Aldersgate College hosts its graduation ceremonies in June, right? But Mzembi graduates in December. So he has graduated out of sync with the graduation cycle of the school that shares a name. And I keep saying this, Aldersgate College shares a name with Aldersgate University College. But they don't give PhDs, and we've established that. But nonetheless, their graduation cycle is not in sync. And it's a bit of a big red flag there.
But before we talk about that, is there no collaboration between UNISA and Aldersgate?
We've found no evidence of that. There's no way. Aldersgate College doesn't list UNISA as its center for distance learning. And as Jacob Changamire finds, academic practice is if you cannot attend graduation for any reason in the said country, you can either do it in absentia or via live streaming, right? Your name will still be called out and you will have graduated, and that's about that. So what essentially has happened here is the UNISA hall has been used for that graduation ceremony for Aldersgate, and that's just about that.
And I understand Walter Mzembi sent his synopsis, and Prof then
Went deep on it.
and then found issues with his synopsis. Do you want to share more about that?
Yeah. So Walter Mzembi's synopsis is it's 22 pages, the one that is for his PhD. Changamire immediately raises red flags because that synopsis does not have any kind of academic referencing. It's well written, yes, but does not read like a PhD synopsis. There is no academic style, there is neither references, there is no bibliography. But you might say maybe he sent us a redacted version. But then something else happens, right? Changamire is an IT guru, he does deep investigations. And he starts to analyze the document that came from Walter Mzembi. And he finds that this document was created on the 2nd of December at 6 in the morning. And that document was last edited on the same day, 104 minutes later. And it had undergone 52 revisions. And that's not even the bombshell. The document itself doesn't list Walter Mzembi as the author. It lists a different person as the author.
Are you saying Walter Mzembi did not write this?
We're not saying Walter didn't write it. We don't really know what's transpired there. But what we know is the synopsis that Walter gave us. That synopsis was written by someone called Darlington Muzeza. We've approached Darlington Muzeza and we'll play our interview with him at the end of this episode for readers to make up their mind. But Darlington Muzeza, who was working in some capacity within the Ministry of Tourism, comes out in the metadata of that document as the author, not Walter Mzembi. And that brings up significant problems because the equivalent is I submit my thesis and someone looks at the metadata and you are the author. And there's no explanation.
Probably they exchanged laptops.
That the minister used Darlington Muzeza's laptop. It's possible, perhaps, but there's a problem. Darlington Muzeza in his interview says he's never seen that document and doesn't know what we're talking about. Outright disowns it. He says, I didn't write the document, I don't know what document you're talking about. And outright distanced himself from it. In fact, he actually eventually says it's all political and stuff. And we'll get to him. And while we are still on this supposed document, universities use something called Turnitin. It's a system that checks for plagiarism. When Changamire submits Walter's document to Turnitin, it reflects back as a first entry, right? This is for a PhD done 12, 11 years ago. If you looked at, when I was doing my PhD at Bournemouth University and I stopped after my major review, if you got a hold of my major review brief and you uploaded it and turned it in, it would not come up as a first submission. You would actually see the different submissions when I put it in, when my supervisors put it in, when my assessors put it in. Walter Mzembi, his document came out as a fresh document that was almost never inputted into the system before. So that document that is given as the synopsis appears to not have existed anywhere else within academic circles. It actually returns a Turnitin score of 8%. And you start building the case where the name of the college is wrong. It doesn't exist. A similar college exists, but this particular college that exists doesn't give PhDs. You have a synopsis that doesn't follow academic style of writing. It's got no references, it's got no bibliography. And the same synopsis reflects in the metadata that it was written by somebody who was a junior or a subordinate to the minister, or rather, the minister was his principal. And to take it worse, that synopsis is not very different in terms of the topic, the thematic areas, and the general coverage of Darlington Muzeza's own research. It's very close together. Almost to the point whereby you're doing a PhD, I'm doing a PhD, and the synopsis that I submit has your name on it, but it's also dramatically similar to your own PhD that you did. That that's something else.
I'm trying to think. Darlington Muzeza
Yeah.
does a synopsis. We have Walter Mzembi synopsis. But Walter Mzembi synopsis is submitted Turnitin, and it gives us 8%.
8%, yeah.
Which means even Darlington Muzeza's synopsis has never been submitted as well.
Oddly, no. Darlington Muzeza appears to have a very legitimate PhD, and with the Cape Peninsula University of Technology. He appears on social medias of the CPUT. His graduation is captured. His PhD is legitimate. The pictures, the videos are online. He looks like a true academic. And his research is actually important research that pops out it's referenced by so many people in further, in further research. Specifically something to do with campfire, it pops out a lot. And even in our interview with him, he explains that this pops out a lot. So Darlington is fine. But Darlington pops up in that he's researching, or he has been awarded a PhD for the very same areas that Walter Mzembi is then researched. And there is a serious potential conflict of interest because Muzeza at that point is subordinate to Walter Mzembi.
And yeah, that's something else. Let's go to 2.5, chapter 2.5 of the report. Timeline discrepancies.
Yeah. So what Changamire then finds, combing through the archives, is we get reports of Mzembi graduating sometime in December 2015, right? And he says Mzembi claims to have graduated that same time. However, that synopsis we're talking about, it was finalized, its last edit on that document is on 2 December 2015. So that means between 2 December 2015 and a matter of days later, that synopsis is submitted, the PhD is assessed, it's marked, Mzembi defends it, and then he graduates. Even if you say, let's stretch it and say he graduated on the 31st of December, even Darlington Muzeza himself says that that is impossible. Even for a master's thesis, you couldn't submit it and get it marked and defend it in that period. And Muzeza introduced something quite fancy, which I was going to talk about later, which is at the said graduation function, he says Mzembi gets to do a mini defense of his thesis. And I immediately stopped him and say, what do you mean? Is it usually in line of work that somebody submits their thesis and they defend it and they graduate on the same day? And he's quite unable to give the correct answers and says you need to talk to Walter Mzembi about these things. But he tells us something that is fascinating about that graduation function. A graduation function which we then also learn from Walter Mzembi first, that the late minister, Chris Mshowe, attended and graduated. We also then learn from Darlington Muzeza to confirm the same, that Mshowe attended. There are other senior government people who are still in government today, including a man and a woman who also attend the same ceremony, who were investigating and will be part of the next episode of the Fake Doctorate Files. But yes, that's the huge discrepancy where Walter Mzembi is submitting his PhD in December 2015 and also graduating in December 2015. You tied back with what we said before, that the graduation cycle for this school is in June. So he's graduated 6 months later for a document that has been finalized only a couple of days later.
Amazing.
I don't think it's amazing, but okay.
No, but the lie is, it's actually amazing how people try to. So what's
the conclusion?
What is
okay? I mean, I'll read the conclusion for our readers. This is what Jacob Changamire finds. He says, number 1, Aldersgate University College is absent from the Philippine higher education registers. Aldersgate College itself only offers degrees up to master's level. The fundamental discrepancy renders Mzembi's doctoral claim illegitimate unless overwhelming evidence of a valid accreditation emerges. Number 2, ceremonial irregularities. Conducting a graduation at UNISA for a Philippines-based institution on a date that does not align with the school's academic calendar is unorthodox and calls authenticity into serious question. Synopsis deficiencies. Number 3, a supposed PhD level work lacking citations created in just over 100 minutes with a low Turnitin similarity index does not meet accepted academic standards. And he says the overlap with another researcher's topic, in this case Darlington, and the thematic content further compromises the claims of originality. Taken collectively, the evidence unequivocally undermines the credibility of Walter Mzembi's claimed doctoral degree from Aldersgate University College, the non-existent institution name, lack of doctoral accreditation in Philippine records, the irregular December graduation in South Africa, and the wholly unreferenced PhD synopsis represents major red flags. Unless substantial documentation emerges proving otherwise, this PhD must be regarded as unverified and likely invalid by recognized academic standards. So, in short, Changamire is saying, in this investigation, these are the building blocks. 1, Walter Mzembi graduated from a college that doesn't exist. We understand a college with a similar name exists, but that college does not give out degrees anyway. Number 2, the synopsis supplied by Walter Mzembi was written by someone else. The metadata tells us it was written by someone else who was studying or whose research very closely mirrors that. And the third thing, he graduates in a different country for a different university when there's no available memorandum of understanding that says UNISA can host graduation ceremonies on behalf of this college in the Philippines. And lastly, he says the document itself that doesn't meet academic standards. It's got a very low Turnitin index, and everything about it says this is incorrect. So overwhelmingly, that qualification by Walter Mzembi is false and it is bogus.
Thumbs up to Changamire for this one.
Yeah,
and maybe my last question before we listen to the audio, to the interview. Do we have anyone safe? Are we safe as a nation?
No, we are not. But what I'm proud of, at least, is that the government and those in government have shown extreme concern. So the response from people in authority has been, please continue this work. This needs to be exposed. There is a problem there, especially because we now have an instance where fake qualifications are being presented in cabinet and being presented to cabinet. We understand this problem extends to even during Mugabe's time. And from what we understand, even then, Mugabe wasn't quite pleased. Because there's a funny story that we're hearing, the other time about Mugabe, which you kind of sort of verified, which is that Mugabe did actually have honorary doctorates that were legitimate, by the way, from foreign universities. But he used to get visibly annoyed if you called him Dr. Robert Mugabe. So for that reason, he always went with Comrade R.G. Mugabe. That is something that is expected to persist and to continue. But nonetheless, there is hope that there's going to be action taken. Unfortunately for us as journalists, Panache, the least that we can do is just put things across, raise awareness, and then from there we let the authorities do their thing. But what I just did want to add as well is we contacted Walter Mzembi. We have to give him credit. He was very forthcoming. His synopsis did help us drive that final nail that his degree is fake. I will state on the record that we don't have evidence that Walter knew that this was fake, because he does reference that he attended the same school with several people from the president's office, and he did present those credentials to cabinet after. We sort of know that there were issues after that, but nonetheless, we don't have evidence that Walter knew that he was being duped. What we do have evidence of is that Walter Mzembi's PhD is fake. It's fake and it's bogus, and he graduated from an institution that does not exist. Obviously, as reporters, we had to do the work in terms of saying, but there's an institution with a similar name. But right off the bat, the institution he graduates from that doesn't exist. And even after doing further work, the institution that is similarly linked to that one doesn't offer PhDs either. This is a scenario where someone is claiming to have graduated with a degree in nuclear physics from a nursing school. It can't. It doesn't work. It's not like that. You cannot graduate from primary school with a bachelor's degree. We know that. Neither can you leave high school with a master's degree. Walter Mzembi, the particular college linked to the one he went to, only gives up to masters. And this is according to the Philippines government itself. But in conversation with him, he put up a very spirited defense. And our understanding from how he puts a spirited defense is that he thinks that he has or had a legitimate thing. But that degree is unfortunately bogus. That out the skate degree is bogus. And that would mean it is also bogus for Chris Mshowe. That one is a bit of a moot investigation because Chris Mshowe is now dead, so it can't go anywhere. But there are two other individuals who we are still investigating following that hunch. We followed up because both Darlington Muzeza, who worked for Underwater Mzembi, he confirms that the same people attended. And so do people who are working in government now. I think one of the people mentioned actually worked at ZAC for some point, and she's now at the Ministry of Information. So we are going after her as well because we need to find out. She's one of the attendees. We must also state on the record that Walter Mzembi denies and insists that his PhD is fake. Unfortunately, all the evidence says Walter Mzembi is mistaken. His PhD is bogus and it's fake. And obviously, after this, we will leave the interviews we will leave the viewers to listen to that recorded phone call with Darlington Muzeza, extracts of it, but nonetheless, in quite simple terms, Walter Mzembi does not have a PhD, at least that one that he claims from Aldersgate University College. That is a fake PhD. And Walter Mzembi, like Walter Magaya, like Tatina Mavetera, like Sheku Timburwa, they do not have PhDs. And I think for a lot of people, it will be surprising because he should be Dr. Mzembi, but he isn't.
Until next time, we'll leave you to listen to the interview and we're going back to digging. Thank you.
I've been investigating fake or false or bogus PhDs, be they honorary ones or be they, or otherwise. So along the way, I started looking at Walter Mzembi's PhD. And then I'm gonna pull out the report here. So Walter Mzembi's PhD, my brother Darlington, it does not appear to. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay. It does not appear to be legitimate on several counts. But where you then come in, my brother, is that we ran a trace on his thesis, right? And we ran a trace on his thesis. And his thesis was created on 2 December 2015 at 6 minutes past 9 and accredited to you, to Darlington Muzeza, and it was attributed to you. So, there is something called metadata. If I look into the, beyond a document carries something called metadata. So it will tell me the name of the PC that was used or the original author of a document, right? So for instance, if I send you a Word document today, if you know how to inspect the metadata, you'd be able to see who is the author of the document. That document was completed in 104 minutes with a total, it had 104 minutes of total editing time and 50 revisions. And therein lies the challenge, right? The topic for Mzembi is almost parallel to yours. It references the same key elements like Campfire Program and Harding's Tragedy of Commons. There's actually a thematic overlap throughout both the stuff that's come from you that I've read and the stuff that you have done yourself. And that metadata appears to indicate that you were the author. I've read a study by you, the impact of institutions of governance on communities' livelihoods and sustainable conversations in the Great Limpopo Trans Frontier Park. That is almost a mirror of Walter Mzembi's own his own. Let me bring it up here and get you the name.
You might be hearing some sound. There are cars passing by.
Okay, all right. No,
because where I am right now, there are cars passing. I'm seated right closer to the road.
Okay.
I'm cleaning my car somewhere.
All right.
So you might hear some noise and stuff.
Okay, no, that's fine. It's okay. I don't mind.
Don't worry about that.
Yeah, it's okay. I don't mind.
Yes. I'm listening.
Yeah.
I will not be competent to answer on water, and for the record, because the institutions that we did our studies are completely different. That's number one. Number two, I will only be able to respond to my issues, and I will clarify to you as you are also, I checked, and I realized that you are also doing your PhDs.
Yes.
And where you find spaces or places where there is some thematic overlaps, it's not unusual for as long as that information is not amounting to plagiarism. Because, for example, if you take and write any document in which you reference Campfire, it will show you the researches that converge at the confluence of the discourse around the Campfire issues. How? It's because it's material that is speaking to each other, but it does not necessarily mean that somebody then took your thesis. And you can do plagiarism test and check, and you see whether they are the same or not.
Okay.
Number three.
All right.
Number three.
Mm-hmm.
I did my PhD in South Africa at Cape Peninsula University of Technology.
Mm-hmm.
I think you are familiar with that university. Being a Zimbabwean and closer to South Africa, you know those institutions in South Africa, many of them.
Yes. And
have you reached out to him first? Because it will not be ethical from an intellectual perspective for me to delve into issues pertaining to Walter Mzembi, given his political standing, his issues, and also respecting his individuality as an academician and as a human being, so that I am not found making any statements in which his name is mentioned without him clearing you. I have no communication with him from the time things happened in Zimbabwe, which you do not need an explanation. 2017. Hey, let me move somewhere where I can actually talk to you well, because
okay.
So what I'm simply saying is, it will only be fair if you have spoken to him, and if you have got his contacts. I'll be very happy to have some kind of a conference call, because it's very easy for you to test and check and cross-check again to validate the information, because this is not the first time. I will tell you something that happened in the past, which I think you are familiar with. Soon after graduation of Walter Mzembi, Walter Mzembi did not graduate alone. Do you know that?
Yes, I know. Yes, I know that. And I was going to interrupt you because you're asking about things that have already transpired. Like I said, I'm working as a journalist, not as an academic. So I did put yes, I
As a
did
journalist, yes.
yes. So I did put
Yes,
forward.
you can proceed.
I did put forward questions to Walter, and we are in conversation. And there's a lot more things that I hadn't mentioned because like I said, I didn't think they would be relevant to you.
All right. Okay,
But for instance,
sorry, I rushed too fast because
it's okay.
I
It's
rushed
okay.
too fast. My sincere apology for
No,
that.
it's fine. There's a lot. Walter graduated in South Africa, for instance, and he graduated together with Anna Christopher Mshowe, who is now late, and a lady who is now at ZAC, and so forth and so forth. But similarly,
Which one is Zach? Which one is this one at Zach now?
she was at ZAC. I think she's now being moved to the Ministry of Information. Someone called Ninette.
Oh, yeah, the silly Dr. Silikuni.
Yes. Unfortunately. Yes. So they graduated at a place called Aldersgate University College. That university does not exist, my brother. In the Philippines, Aldersgate College exists, but Aldersgate College only gives out Aldersgate College only gives degrees up to masters. They don't do PhDs. Aldersgate University itself doesn't exist. Now on to Walter's synopsis. I have the copy with me here. It does not have any kind of referencing style. You mentioned plagiarism, so it's just outright a document written. There's no references. There's no bibliography. There's nothing. There's no in-text referencing or post-text referencing.
His thesis has no reference.
Yes.
I don't know.
Yeah, that's why I said I hadn't. Yeah.
Hold of his document.
Okay.
I'll be happy to see it because it's almost impossible for one to write a PhD thesis without referencing.
Yes.
Without any reference.
Unfortunately,
it's not possible.
From my understanding, it's not. But which is why I'm investigating his PhD, because the understanding is this is a bogus. It's a bogus thing. So ultimately, I hadn't brought this up because I don't want you to answer on Walter's behalf. I only wanted to.
Exactly. That is the point, because exactly. I was failing dismally to understand it. That's why I said if I'm competent to answer, because it's not fair and it's not proper to answer to Walter's thesis issues.
100%.
Which I am not privy to the extent that I don't want it to be quoted or misquoted.
Yes,
but what
I get that.
Immediately after their graduation, you remember there was an article which came out in the Daily News. And for some strange reasons, of all the people who graduated that time together with him, it was only him who was being picked and best-matched. And as he was being best-matched, I started asking questions myself to say, why is it that the focus is on him, not even on Mnacho Mtezo? Remember, Mnacho Mtezo graduated.
Yes, he's also on the list.
And then there was Mshowe. There was also, I remember you mentioned the Silikuni, Dr. Nanette Silikuni. I didn't know she graduated on the same day. But I know another person who graduated on the same day, but not with a PhD, is this former Minister of Provincial Affairs in Harare. What was her name? Chikukwa. You remember Madam Chikukwa?
Yes.
Who else? And in fact, I then tried to find out more. And this is what I also, when I was trying to find out, what happened and so forth and so on, in case some people might have misled you that I am a reservoir of data about Walter Mzembi's thesis. No.
No.
I understand the Professor Mzimbo. You know Professor Mzimbo?
Yeah.
A reputable academician. I was made aware that he was there to witness the event, and the event took place at UNISA.
Exactly.
And the event started with a defense, of which in the defense I am told that there were some Zimbabweans who are reputable individuals. I shall not mention their names.
Darlington. So
part of the panelists.
Yeah, sorry to cut you off. In your experience, is it normal that somebody can defend their thesis and graduate on the very same day?
I don't know if they defended on the same day.
Okay.
Which is what I doubt, because it never happens that way.
Okay.
For example, in my case, after the manuscripts were delivered to the university, in my case, I was called by the department, particularly by the supervisory team, to say, we now have your results. And there is a statement on every marking script that asks the marker whether they would want the whole manuscript marking script to be disclosed to a student or not. In the case of my university where I studied.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
Fortunately for mine, all my examiners, they agreed that they can disclose the manuscript to me, because the manuscript forms the basis of making corrections and adjustments. Right?
Yeah. I get it.
So they agreed. And I even saw the mark. Unfortunately, PhDs in South Africa, they don't put a mark. But if they put my mark there, I would have been very proud of my mark, because I know the mark, the average mark from all the markers. Okay. Normally, it's average of 3 markers, but the university can give you more. Mine was marked by 5.
Okay, all right.
Including a Zimbabwean professor.
Okay.
So
while we're there, Darlington,
I'm saying these things so that we are on the same page in terms of. Even I defended my thesis.
Okay.
After defense, it took some weeks for me to be given again the results, because those who mark, it's one thing. Then the oral defense, it's another thing, which is done separately and by different individuals.
Yes. So
individual in a panel, actually. But now for Walter, I'm not so sure, and I can't even say it because I wasn't there.
Okay.
On his defense.
Yeah, I understand. I was bringing it up because you had mentioned that reputable people attended and so forth, right? There are 2 flags there, Darlington. Walter finalizes his thesis on December 2, 2015, right? And I know this because I've got the metadata of the document with me. And then he then graduates 9 days later. So there's a 9-day period between Walter finalizing his thesis and him supposed
finalizing the written mark and the marking and then defense together.
Finalizing and submitting.
How come that is not possible? How long had he done the research?
This is why I've ended up asking these questions. So, but anyway, I understand that you can't speak for other people.
Do you think your metadata is correct in terms of giving you those timelines?
Yes, 100%. Because we're looking at documents
I'm not confident unless there is some gross manipulation and an attempt to mudslinging somebody. Because I can't imagine a person finalizes having done a research and finalizes and then in 9 days graduates. That is impossible.
And thank you for saying that, because this is what has led us here. Because this particular document has come from Walter himself. And the second document has been confirmed by coming from the old email address of the previous institution. So those are the reasons why we're asking questions.
And how has he responded? You said he has sent you this document. How has he responded to have done a PhD thesis and in 9 days he does the writing, finishes, does the defense, and then graduates? It's impossible.
He insists that
even an assignment yemunhu ari kuita diploma, if it moves at that speed, unless it's a 1-page document, then it's fine. But for a doctorate, it's never, and it's impossible.
That was my understanding. His response is that he maintains that everything he did was legitimate and above board. But why I then looked for you, Darlington, as I said earlier, was the metadata says you would have written this document. So I needed to get a response from you in terms of, were you the author of that particular document?
How can that be? Because you have talked to him, 1. Number 2, In your own view, I don't think anyone, even a prolific writer of the highest order, can have that methodological capacity to do things in that manner. That is unfathomable, to be honest with you. It's impossible.
I've sent you
his
his
PhD and where I did mine. These are two unrelated documents, and for the record, I know you are recording this, and as much as I'm doing here, so that we are on the same page, I atavistically deny the claims or what you are trying to say. And secondly, anything to do with him because of the politics around him as an individual, I think you can refer the questions to Walter and not to me, because he is qualified and competent to respond for himself. Number three, the convergence of thematic areas of the study that I did, which I'm very proud of having done my PhD in South Africa, and I can walk with my head over my shoulders, tall over my shoulders, that I invested in my education and completed. My supervisors are there, Professor Diwetisketi, Professor Knight Snyman. That is a separate study altogether with what the other guys have done. But what I can say, which you know, if you write campfire, which I mentioned several times in my thesis, and you Google the materials that relates to campfire as a natural resource, developmental and transformational concept of community empowerment, they will come and it will make reference to me, to Dr. Zingirai, to Dr. Mukamori, to Professor so and so. And you find the links. You can then check.
Yeah, I get all of that. I get all of that, I get all of that, Darlington. But what I wanted to find out from you was, are you the author of this document by Walter Mzembi submitted to this college that supposedly doesn't exist? And if it is that you are not the author, is there any explanation as to why this document says it was created in your name and edited 50 times before it was submitted?
Edited how many? 50 times?
Yes, 50 revisions in 104 minutes on December 2, 2015 at 9 minutes past 6 in the morning.
104 minutes?
Yes.
And you do 50 something revisions?
Yes.
Do you think even yourself you've got that capacity?
It's not about what I think, Darlington. I need to establish if that document came from you, and if it didn't.
I'm just asking. That level of efficiency maybe can only be done by angels, because for me, really, you are talking of a document, I don't know how many pages it is. I will be very happy if you can also forward me the document so that I have a look at it. I'm not privy to what Mzembi's
I sent you the document. It's about 22 pages. The same one that I told you. It's got no references and so forth. But that was a different dialogue.
The whole thesis.
Have a look at it. This is the synopsis that I've sent you, which is 22 pages. And that's
let me have a look at it. He is the one who sent you the synopsis.
Oh yes, and we cross-checked with the old email address of the old university, and they sent the same document. So you know it's the one that was submitted.
Oh, from the university. Okay, fine. Let me have a look, because I'm not even privy to his
okay.
To his synopsis. Let me look at it. I'll be getting it for the first time anyway.
Okay. If you're not privy to it, then there's obviously I take it that you're saying you didn't write that document, because you would be privy to it if you had written it, I suppose.
To be honest with you, what you are asking me, it's like you want me to say yes, but this is not.
No. I just wanted an honest answer from you.
I'm not privy. That's why I'm asking.
Okay.
I want to see my synopsis. For me, you can go to the university portal of Cape Peninsula University of Technology. Right?
No, I wasn't looking at yours. I'm looking at Walter's one. Yours, I don't doubt that it's correct, because I've seen the graduation photos. Yeah.
Juxtapose the two.
Yeah.
Check his, if at all he made reference to me, it could have been a benefit out of my thesis from the portal at the university. But try to check also if you are making those allegations. Try to check, and you put it in plagiarism to see whether that was plagiarized or not, and check not only my doctoral synopsis, which when I get home, I'll be very much at liberty to send you.
Yeah, definitely.
And you can go on YouTube. You can see Professor Duetti Skate reciting my doctoral thesis. I can even send you a clip which was taken by Mr. Matome.
I've seen a video of you graduating on YouTube, but I said I'm not investigating your PhD, Darlington. I've got no reason to believe it's bogus.
I want to check where are we drawing the lines between what you have, what I send you, and what I have, or what I did. These are two different areas.
Exactly. So
two different institutions and two different individuals. If he at all he made reference or I used the part of my information, but not to the extent of plagiarizing.
Okay.
It's permissible if it is within the range that is allowable academically.
Right. So I know you are aware of something called Turnitin, eh?
I know all that.
Okay, right. So in fact, and you'll find this odd, and I'm only sharing this with you for context because this is
WhatsApp.
Okay, this is
try to put it.
Yeah, I'm telling you this for context because this is part of the questions I presented to him. I hadn't presented it to you because it wasn't relevant to you. But when we submitted his documents ourselves to Turnitin, the first initial score on Turnitin for the synopsis alone was 8%, which almost indicated that this was the first time that it had been submitted in Turnitin, because by the time we submitted for the second time, it was now referencing the first submission. So are you aware of instances where a student has done an entire thesis and when you go on Turnitin, that thesis is reflecting as a first submission?
How? Once you submit, my assumption is that before any student graduates, in any case, in this case, water, that document must go through plagiarism test. And the moment you test it again, it must reflect how many times it is being tested.
Yeah, it was. I've sent you.
Even the Negrini never even got tested.
It didn't. And I'm not surprised because, like I said to you, if you go back to one of the first things I said to you, it was that this is where the challenge is. Aldersgate University College does not exist. It does not exist at all.
Personally, I can't answer for Aldersgate.
I'm not asking you to answer. I'm not asking you to answer. I'm telling you, which is what we then join the dots with this document never ever having been submitted on Turnitin. But nonetheless, I would
request my brother to cut the long story short. What I would request is you have sent me his synopsis.
Yeah.
I will look at that. Number two, if you have got his thesis, since you are in touch with him,
yeah.
If I can have that one also, and I check for myself because I'm not aware where actually that can be related to me in terms of production of the document, number one. Number two, I'm not aware of even the test that you are saying that you are running it for the first time and you are worried. And since you are in conversation with him, I'm in Zimbabwe. And the water is outside country. I don't know where he is. I only see his tweets that he sent. He posts so much. I read him on online newspapers and stuff. And that's all as far as I'm concerned. I have not been able to communicate with him. And I don't want it to become accessory to so many things that happens in other people's lives. You have read about what has been happening in his own life, politically and otherwise. I don't want it to be associated or anything that comes out to reference to that. I know even the precarious environments that we find ourselves in. And I know you are recording. I'm putting this on record also to make sure that I don't get into trouble. Because so many people end up relating matters, political and otherwise, to me. I don't want it to be part and parcel of accessories of bastardizing, demonizing, and attacking and character assassinating individuals for the reasons that you obviously know. I think it would be good to respect the boundaries and spaces in the protection of his own integrity and in my own protection, because I know where this will get up to. I'm in Zimbabwe and I don't want any problems around my persona as a result of such kind of things coming out.
Okay, Darlington, I suppose this is now
from an informed point of view, because you know what has happened in the past, and for my head to be on the block.
No,
I don't think even your dog will be very happy, because
it's not on the block, Darlington.
What is is too sensitive. I don't want it to be in that space.
No. And like I said, Darlington, I'm working on this as a journalist, and the simple questions relate to his thesis. So
my brother,
I'm not.
Muslanga right now. Blessing Muslanga right now is in hiding. He's in hiding for exercising his right, his journalistic right. Okay?
I'm aware of.
I know you are out because you enjoy the advantage of protection.
I'm aware of.
I wanted to get it. The moment you mention water, let me tell you, the moment you mention water, with all that he posts and so forth and so on, people start to shiver and look around. So for me, really, to be in the papers for the wrong reasons, and then people trying to draw my lines, or iwewe ndataura naMuzeza about water, and that will basically insinuate as if I'm talking to Walter Mzembi. That becomes problematic. To me, professionally and politically, it will not be good.
I hear, but you know, Darlington, are we not taking the conversation to a different theme altogether? Because I think at the base of...
You may give me the confidence you are talking about.
No, I'm not trying to give. I'm not trying to give you confidence. I was just trying to zone in to say the mere question was: did you write the PhD from Mzembi? And if not,
the question already.
Exactly. And if not,
to send me the document they've sent.
Yes,
and I'm requesting. I want to look at even his thesis because I don't have it.
Yes, I've heard you. Right.
If you can get me that one, I'll be able to look,
okay.
And I will tell you.
Why? I suppose, Darlington, there are then questions from my end is, at the time when this happened, you were working at the Ministry of Tourism, right? At least that's what I see from your LinkedIn, and you have ran to say you don't want to participate in maligning someone's character and his integrity. And that sounds like you've already passed judgment that someone's integrity is being maligned when all you are doing is investigating academic fraud. So that has had me wondering why it appears you are trying to protect Walter, but at the same time, in the same vein, you are saying you want more information. But it appears your mind is made up.
Your statement, my brother, your statement is already judgmental.
But
you are saying I want to protect water. I'm not protecting water because I have no reason to. Number one, I've answered you. It's a no. Number two, you explained to me that you are getting some similarities akin to what I did.
Yes.
And you gave me an example. You cited campfire and so forth and so on. And I said, is it surprising that you may find a document which talks about campfire written by Professor Dzingrai, one that talks of campfire written by Mugabe, one that talks about campfire written by Professor Mkamuri, and one that talks about
people work together though?
By myself.
Did these people work together though? We're talking about an instance where you were deputy director and he was the minister, and the thematic areas are the same, and the documents metadata is then saying you did it.
I think in the case somebody gave you that kind of information, I will reserve my comments because I'm seeing already how somebody has misinformed you, because I wasn't even a deputy director at that time.
Okay, so what was your role then? Somebody said special assistant and so forth, but nonetheless there was a relationship here, professional or otherwise. And I have a document that says it came from a subordinate, but it's been attributed to his superior and then submitted to the university.
You have got the information that it came from a subordinate. That's a very interesting, one now, because to be honest with you, initially you said it's a professional tracking. Now you are making reference that it came from a subordinate, which again makes me to be very suspicious and cautious on what you are talking about.
Like I said, Darlington, it's a bit difficult because, like you said you want more information, but you were very clear that you said you don't want to participate in something that maligns his reputation. So from my side,
what I'm simply saying is, because from the way things have been asked, it's not the first time I've seen Walter's name coming out in the papers.
and
the first article that came out was in the Daily News.
Has it come out?
And I can tell you what was happening at the time and the conflict thereof that existed at the time
Darlington,
between him and the chief executive officer wake waishanda naye.
But Darlington, you're an academic, and we are giving you instances and notes here that prove that there is potential that there was academic fraud. And instead of paying attention to academic fraud, we're now discussing politics. Politics might be the motivation.
I'm not playing politics. I'm saying anything that relates to his thesis can be referred directly to him and his university.
And we have done that, Darlington.
Supervisor to him.
We have done that. What I've asked Darlington is if there's an explanation on why this document supposedly emanated from you.
You have asked me, how does it relate to me, and where is it that it is saying it emanated from me? Because I have no relationship with that document.
Okay.
I've answered that. And then I said, because you then said the synopsis has got elements that link with your thesis.
Yes,
and I said, can I have that? And even the thesis, and I look at it, and I will be very much interested to know. But your thesis in terms of tendency test, you would give my results. If you said it wasn't even tested, I don't know about that.
I've sent
because
you.
In academic terms, it's impossible to graduate mono PhD.
Yes, because I would have assumed when he was doing either probationary review or major review that all those documents and so forth, that at least his proposal,
personal assistant, for your information, the personal assistant to that man is alive. You may ask him. You may look for him. Not me. I wasn't his personal assistant at the time.
Okay, all right, that's fine, Darlington. You can have a look at the document, and then you know, if there's anything else to add, you let me know. Okay, all right.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, have a good one.
Shit.
You have just listened to the interview between myself, the lead producer at Dug Up, and Darlington Muzeza, who appears in the metadata of the synopsis that was supplied by Walter Mzembi. You can make up your mind how you wish regarding that interview. But I'll reiterate, we did approach Walter Mzembi. We've been in conversation the entire time, and he insists his PhD is real. The evidence that we have, it says otherwise. We are continuing to investigate the other people. We're grateful for your support, and we keep encouraging you to subscribe on Substack. And remember, at the end of February, all articles on Substack will move to become paid articles. So you need to subscribe now while it's still free. You also need to subscribe to our YouTube, as we will also be leading on that line. We have member benefits for exclusive lives, exclusive content, and some releases that come 2 or 3 days prior to our investigations. And we'd appreciate if you joined as members. It helps us out a lot. I've said it time and time again, investigations take time and investigations take money to do. So your support is incredibly appreciated. So once again, from me and Panache at Dug Up, and for this particular investigation, the brilliant work by Prof. Changamire, all of us say thank you for following us as we do the digging. We're going to pick up our shovels now, go back to the ground, and continue digging. All right.